Okay, we are making some progress on the deck. I came across this tool right here, which is actually helping quite a bit with this process. So this is a pull bar, and it's made by a company called Crescent. In fact, there's the information right there, if you can see that. But anyway, it's great because you can get right up underneath that board, and the way that it's designed is you can get some leverage on it, and you can pull that board up. And then the other thing that's cool about it is right there in the middle, it's got a thing where you can actually pull the fastener up too. So that's made it pretty handy. So yeah, that'd be kind of a pain to have to get down there on your hands and knees and pull each one of those up with a pry bar. But yeah, so we'll just keep going, and I'll talk to you here in a minute about some decisions that I've made regarding this deck, mainly because I'm a little scared right now about the economy, so I don't want to get too deep into this deck. So I've decided that I'm just going to kind of pull back on a lot of the things that I was going to do. I'm just going to replace the boards that are absolutely necessary, and then go on from there. But in the meantime, I had another issue come up. So pretty much the story of my life, everything's going fine, and then all of a sudden it isn't. So I had a water heater that went out. That water heater is only 3 years old. I had suspected that something was going on with that even from the time that it was first put in, because the pilot light would occasionally go out on it. And then I could come down here and go through the start process, of course, go to the pilot position, the whole deal where you light the pilot light and push the gas in, hit the igniter, and I would get it relit, and it would run, and it would heat, and it would do what it was supposed to do. And then occasionally I'd come back out or come back down and look at it again, and the pilot light was out. And on this particular unit, it has an indicator right there. It's an LED light that comes on, and it's supposed to flash about once every 3 seconds or so to let you know that everything's operating okay. So after the pilot light had gone out a couple times, that light goes out. I had just gotten so used to looking at it, almost every time I come in and out the door right here, I'd look at that to make sure the pilot light wasn't out. And it had gone out on me in that 3-year period of time, probably a dozen times or so. And I researched it as best I could. Some of the information that I saw suggested that it was a ventilation problem, and sometimes a sensor in there would indicate that it's not getting enough ventilation, and it would shut off the pilot light for safety purposes. And so I never did really find out exactly what the deal was, but now I know what the deal was, because here lately I was starting to notice that I was getting some sooting that was coming up the side of the water heater right here. And I was also getting some soot that I was noticing on the top of it from where it was going up through the vent line, and I noticed there was some soot that was building up in there. So I was starting to suspect that something was wrong with this thing, and then it basically took care of itself, and it shut down, and it wouldn't relight. And so I called our water heater guy, not the same guy that put this in. I called another guy. He's actually our air conditioner guy that also does water heaters. But I called him, and he looked at it and immediately told me what my problem was. So we are on a propane system in this house, and when I called to have this water heater replaced 3 years ago, the company that came out and did it for us, I wish I would have called my friend that came out and did this one for me the other day, but there was some situation where he couldn't do it for me, so I called another company. But anyway, my friend looked at this the other day when he put my new water heater in, and he told me exactly what the problem was. And see if you can see that right there. This is a natural gas water heater that was put onto a propane system. I had no idea that you could even do that. I would have thought that fittings would be different. I would have thought that the line coming into the house would have been different. something, but apparently that's not the case. So they hooked a natural gas water heater up to a propane system. So will it run? Yes, but not well. And apparently it was trying to tell me something was wrong because it kept shutting the pilot light off. So what's the result of that? The result is that the jets that are in the burner in there where your gas atomizes and then is ignited and then of course burns to heat the water, those jets are different between a natural gas and a propane tank. So therefore this thing was burning very inefficiently, and the burn off that it was emitting was very sooty. So it was kind of like a black residue that was emanating inside of this thing when it was heating up. And this is what this residue was, this soot that I saw. And it was getting really bad in this vent system right here. You can see up in there how sooty that got in there. And then look at this thing inside. That thing was just all sooted up and nasty, and it was getting all up into the vent system, and that's what the soot was that I was seeing. So it was really starting to build up in there. I mean, you can see that just touching that stuff, how sooty and nasty it was. This was a fire hazard waiting to happen, and so I'm just thankful that it shut itself down. But the way that was sitting up there, I was already really starting to question it. So it probably wouldn't have been long before I would have had to have addressed something just because of that. But I'm just thankful that it didn't go so far as to cause us a problem. So it shut down and it wouldn't relight, and that was the end of it. So I had to call my buddy. And I'm really thankful to him for doing this. He was down in South Georgia, and he came and put another water heater in for me. So this is what we went back with. I mean, it's a water heater, but what I went back with this time was an electric one. Two reasons for that. One, I was just really getting paranoid about that sooting and everything that I was seeing, and I was really concerned at the fact that that I was going to have a compromised vent system up in here. But we did look at it, and that looks okay. It was just a pipe that was coming up from the old water heater that was just full of soot. But anyway, so I was concerned about that, and that's one reason why I didn't want to go back with another propane. And the second one was I didn't have a choice. He went to his supply company, and they had no propane tanks, but they had an electric. So I was happy with going with an electric. It's not quite as efficient as the propane is as far as the cost, but I was okay with it. The only concern that we had was, did I have a source of power for it? So I came over here and I looked at my box, and I did have one 220 location right here that was dedicated to our barn power, but we changed where our barn gets power. We don't run it from our house anymore. We have a separate power source for that. We ran it off of another electrical pole, so it has its own source of power now. So we could have run it from here, but of course the panel would have had to have come off. We would have had to have taken that wiring out, added the other wiring for the water heater, but fortunately I had another source, and that was the hot tub that I had just removed in one of my previous videos where I had disconnected it, chopped it up, and hauled it off to the dump. I still had that circuit breaker sitting here. It was a 50 amp 220 circuit breaker, and I still had the power run to it. So that conduit right there, the power for the hot tub ran all the way along the ceiling there, and then it went out and underneath the deck, and so that was all still there. And so while those guys were here putting the water heater in for me, I was up underneath the deck disconnecting all of that wiring and yanking it back through. We pulled it all the way off of that wall right there where I had it all mounted, and we brought it all the way across the basement here, and we ran it over. I got to put a junction box right there because I did not have a junction box for it, and they didn't have one either. But we were able to run it and put it right over there. So we didn't have a tremendous amount of additional wiring or anything like that. I pretty much already had it from the hot tub removal. So thankful for that. That cut a lot of time off. If I didn't have that there, we would have gone another day without hot water because they didn't have all the electrical stuff that they needed either. They weren't exactly sure what they were dealing with. But fortunately, that power was there from the hot tub, and we were able to use that. So that little problem was averted. So now what I'll do is this old water heater right here will make its way out to my gun range where I have my previous water heater out there. We have an appliance-oriented gun range. We have old appliances out there that we hang targets on and stuff like that. I have a couple water heaters, a washer and dryer, stuff like that. So when we get angry, we go out and take it out on old appliances. So anyway, I'm glad that we were able to take care of that. And also, and the other thing that I got done was these two big old dead trees that were right here. These are two huge pine trees, and they ended up getting cut out. And thankfully, I did not have to pay the expense for that. The state came out and did that, and they brought out all that equipment right there. Some nice equipment for taking trees out, and they got rid of those. Yeah, I had to call those guys because these trees had died, and they did it in just one season, and they were big, and you can definitely see the lean that's going on this stump that's left, and then that one over there. You can definitely tell that they were both had a tendency to lean towards the road, and if those two big old trees would have come down and laid across that road, more than likely, one, it would have damaged the road. But the other thing I was concerned about was that's a hill right over there. So if there was a car coming in this direction, up over that hill, by the time you would have seen a tree or two laying in the road right there, that would have been a serious situation. Somebody coming from that direction, of course, would have seen him in plenty of time, but that was my big concern. So anyway, I called him. And they took their time, but they finally made it out here and got it done. But so I am glad to have that little problem taken care of. Yeah, so anyway, I was alluding earlier to the fact that I've just decided to really cut back on what all I was going to do to this deck project. I'm just going to go ahead and finish these boards right here. I'll take these off because they all pretty much have to be done. And I'm only going to hit just a few down here on this main deck. Some of the ones that are just, really bad. But, I was going to get in there and do a little bit more framework and things like that. Even the stain that I'm going to use, I've decided that I'm not going to use that particular stain. It's more like a paint. And it's $160 for 5 gallons. And obviously, a deck this size, I can't even remember how much I used of the last type of stain. I want to say it was probably about 20 gallons, but it goes a little bit further than this new stuff I was going to use. But I'm not going to use it because I'm just going to cut back on a lot of this. What's going on with the economy right now, and the industry I work in is getting a little bit scary. So I'm just going to go back with that oil-based stain that I used before, and it's fine. If you put it on nice and thick, it lasts about 3 to 5 years. So anyway, that's kind of the decision that I've made here, is just do the bare minimum on this deck project here, get it stained and be done with it, and then just go into a maintain mode. I mean, I have enough stuff that I do around here that keeps me busy, but as far as expenditures on big projects and things like that, we've just decided that we're just not going to do it, and we'll just go into a maintain mode and do the things that need to be done around here, and which is plenty. We're doing our part to isolate or distance ourselves socially, I suppose, which as you can see around here is not too hard for us to do. We don't have any neighbors. Well, we got one neighbor, he's way over there. And then this property over here, that's an 800-acre hunting property. So my closest neighbor on that side is actually about a mile down the road. So we are very isolated here as far as being home. In terms of our jobs, I work in the airline industry. And so right now we are going into work, and at this point, that is a good thing. Taking whatever precautions that we can. But we got to go into work and we got to make it happen. But I got to tell you something. It's very concerning because that's due north. We sit about 40 miles due south of the Atlanta airport as a crow flies. And this area up through here is actually the south. I believe it is the South 2 departure, and consistently all throughout the day, this would be an area where I would see airplanes coming over all day long. And we're far enough south, and they're pretty much high enough by the time they get over the top of us. It's not a noise issue, especially with today's engines, but. I am telling you right now, yesterday I saw one airplane come over, and I've been out here outside now doing different things for about 2 hours today already, and I have not heard one airplane come over. So, the company that I work for, they parked 600 airplanes and reduced their flight capacity by 70%, and so it's getting scary out there right now. So, that's another reason why I'm kind of cutting back on this project here, is that, keep all the money in the bank account that you can. Don't have any unnecessary expenditures, and because being in the airline industry, I may very well end up out of work. So we'll see. All right. So I will continue this job, and then no doubt about it, we are in cutting season again. I've already done one cut on the mower. We've got a ton of weeding that needs to be done. I've got some repairs out there that need to be done. I've already got some of the wood for that. And so on to the next job. Yay, team! Alright, so we're doing our part to social distance. Don't get too close to me.
Get away from me. Good golly.
We don't have any neighbors, we don't have any friends. It's just you and I, so I think we're doing our part, right?
I guess. Get over there. You're getting close again.
So, what do you think is going to be worse? Coronavirus or cooties?
Oh. In the 3rd grade, cooties for sure.
Yeah,
Coronavirus right now? Yeah.
yeah, but what if cooties comes back?
Oh, we always have cooties. You gotta drop Earl's little thing in his little bucket. Come on, baby. Come on. Come get your cookies. Whoopsie doodle. Poor babies.
What you doing, Jake? You're the most beautiful horse ever. Look at you.
All right, one more. There you go, sweetie. All right, Norman.
Wow. That's a nice little payday right there.
Awesome, so good. He's been going out of his way to be such a good boy. Okay. Mom, he beat the shit out of me. I'm so sorry.
Is he getting the best of him?
Oh gosh, yes. And Awesome's like, no, I just want to be with you, man. I just want to be with you.
I just want to be your buddy, dude.
But you know what? I mean, they're with each other all the time. And Mosby didn't seem to know what nose kisses were. He does now. I think he likes them.
Well, let's find out and hope that you don't get your face bitten off while I'm filming this, right? Now we're going to find out right now.
All right, come here, sweet boy.
Yeah, we're going to find out about the whole nose kiss thing here.
Oh, sugar pot pie. All right, here we go.
Oh man, look at that. They left us all kinds of nice equipment, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And they left the
Oh.
kids in the little tractor.
Yeah, but that whole thing is full of shavings too.
I bet they
We ought to get them. Yeah, we ought to get them to leave those for us. All right, buddy.
See how good he's being?
Mosby, how you doing there, bud?
You're such a good boy.
You all right?
You're such a good boy.
All right.
Judy would be so proud. Judy Conger would be so proud of Awesome. Yes, she would.
You think?
And she would not be proud of me for that.
No, I think she
Out
would.
you go, and
I
get
think
turned around.
Judy would make him do push-ups.
Come here, sweet boy.
Awesome, you're doing good, but give me 10, buddy. Give me 10.
Come here, baby.
Here, you want me to hold Awesome?
No, we're good because we do this all
right.
the time together.
All right.
And Mosby is learning how to be a brat. He's learning how to be a spoiled guy. Yeah, yeah.
I have a feeling he's had some training in that.
Yeah, he's learning how to get nose kisses. All right. Back up, sweetie. Back up, baby. Back up. Good boy. Mosby, come on out and get turned around, sweetheart. Good boy. What a good boy. All right. More cookies? Of course. There we go. All right, here we go. All right, baby. Come on.